Hey there, it's Phil McDowell, the Mortgage Professor, brought to you by Mortgage Alliance. Mortgages are marvelous. Do you have the kind of parents that just absolutely drive you nuts? Now, what I'm talking about in terms of driving you nuts is, here they are, they've retired, they've been living in their house for years and years and years, and you're saying, Ma, Dad, it's time for you to move out. You can't afford the maintenance on the home. You don't have enough income to let you do what you want to do. Give us a break. We don't want to be coming over mowing your lawn every week. Well, you've probably got some pretty firm-minded, I'm going to stay in my house until they drag me out dead. Well, sometimes there is just no arguing with your parents. So what kind of advice are you going to give to them? Because right now, they love their house, but they're in a cash-poor retirement. And you know that house that they so love? Maybe the stairs are really tough to navigate, even going up the porch into the house. So they need to do some renovations in order to comfortably live in the home. The issue is they've been dealing with their friendly banker for the last 57 years. They go there and the banker says, you know, this 27-year-old twerp says, gee, I'm sorry, you don't have the income to pay the money back. And when I look at your credit report, you haven't borrowed money for 20 years. You have no credit report, and we have a credit score, and we've got models, and da-da-da-da-da-da, and we don't want to foreclose on a poor old lady, poor old gentleman. So philosophically, the bank doesn't want to give you any money. Thank you. Goodbye. Is that really fair? Well, there is an alternative. And the alternative is something called a reverse mortgage. What does that mean? I'm giving up my house. When I die, that terrible financial institution is going to take my house away. I'm going to have no estate left. Not true. Here's something to take a look at. And I've created an example for you. Let's say that Mom and Dad have a home and it's worth $400,000. And let's say that they're taking a look and they've got a horizon. They're saying, well, I will move, but I still feel healthy enough. I don't want to move for another 5 years. So when you look at it and you say, you know what? If there's cash in the pocket of $120,000, that'll create some of the renovation money that they can easily get into the home. Get onto the second floor if there is a second floor, tidy up the house, get rid of well, they're back now, but you know, the old shag rug that's threadbare. Well, maybe they can do that. Maybe even take a trip, whatever. But let's say that they do take the $120,000. Now, even if the bank was inclined to lend them the money, $120,000, they give them a line of credit, it's interest only. But on a month-to-month basis, they're going to see their cash dwindle just with the interest payments coming out of the cash that they just borrowed. Reverse mortgage works a little differently in that you borrow the $120,000. There is no credit checks, there's no income test, and the reason why is the interest that's going to be paid on the mortgage will be paid in the future when Mom and Dad decide to sell a house or they die. But what's left over? Well, I've done a little example. If you have a home worth $400,000 today, and let's say there's a slow pace of value increase, say 3%, over the next 5 years on an annual basis. Well, in 5 years, that house is going to be worth $463,000. The money that you borrowed, the $120,000, will have been accumulating interest, and that accumulated interest is going to be creating a mortgage balance then that has to be paid off through the sale of the home of $163,000. So in 5 years from now, what you started off with equity in a home of $400,000, you're saying, oh goodness, I've only got equity in the home of $300,000. That's 463 less 163. That's only $300,000. But remember, this is 5 years from now. You started off with $120,000. Well, let's face it, Mom and Dad are pretty darn frugal. Do you think there's going to be any of that money left? Of course there is. And in the meantime, they've had 5 years where they've enjoyed the house that they had absolutely no intention of moving out of. They were going to suffer, eat cat food to stay in the home. Well, that might be an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Maybe it's time to have that conversation with Mom and Dad about their cash poor retirement. You and Mom and Dad may have a completely different idea as to where house values may be 5 years from now in order to determine what the estate is going to be worth or what's left over when they decide to move out. But you know what? We've created some calculators that if you say, I think house prices aren't going to go anywhere, we can tell you what the value will be. If you think it's only going to be 1%, we can tell you. So you tell us where you think property values are going to go, and we'll tell you what the numbers are. So looking after your money, give us an email, info@AskPhil, and see if this might be the right thing for Mom and Dad to stay in their home and not have that cash poor retirement anymore.